Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about the impact of collecting and what regrets I may have with collecting physical media. So obviously it's not for everyone. So often with physical media collectors we get told, oh, you're spending too much on this stuff, you should just hoist the Jolly Roger, as they say. And look, we understand that is the age we live in. We live in an age of streaming where you can either stream it or download it. We get it. But that's not what physical media collecting is about. By buying these, I'm supporting the official release for one, as well as I'm building it around the way I want to experience movies. And really, it's about my own experience. It's a hobby. It's something that I love. And also, it's not for everyone. I get it's not for everyone. It's a weird thing to have a physical media collection in 2024. We get it. I get how weird it is. But what do I regret about it? I mean, I don't regret too much about collecting. Obviously, it is a lot to house. It's a lot to look at. And when I mentioned in the cost video that I had spent around $55,000 for all of just the Blu-rays, I hadn't even counted DVD or VHS or Laserdisc or VCD, as I am sweating in this room. I had mentioned in that video, 55,000 is a lot of money. But I didn't mention this in the video, when you compare it against something like people collect cars, people restore stuff, people people buy houses and so many other things, and people could say, oh, but you could save a deposit and spend this on the deposit for a house. I live in Sydney where it's just not realistic. The property market at the moment is so overinflated and out of range of everyone who doesn't have access to money that honestly it's just unrealistic that we're ever going to be able to buy a house. So yeah, this is what I love and this is where I put my money and this is what I hope will be my career one day, me talking about this. But it's not what I'm trying to do with the YouTube channel. So what do I regret about this? Not much. Obviously the cost, when I write it down, it's a lot to look at, but it's equivalent to other hobbies. What I do regret though is buying 4K at its peak. Now obviously there are titles that went out of print very early on, such as I think Bad Boys 2, they were out of print for a while. Evil Dead 2 was out of print for a while. I think they maybe have gotten released again. But for many years I could see those going up to like $100, $200 and I was like, I've got them in my collection but I'm never selling them. But things like that, Columbia Classics 4K, those obviously went insane since I bought mine. Things growing cost, but there's also a lot of this value that I put in. Like, if I was buying something, a Blu-ray off the shelf, a lot of it's already lost its value since when I walk out that shop. It's already lost half its value, maybe even 3/4 of its value. It's worth probably a few cents if I was to sell it. But it's not about me trying to sell it. It's not about the valuation. It's not really even about how much I spend in the hobby. It's about what do I feel comfortable spending each time on these things. As I mentioned in my breakdown video, my cost breakdowns, I mentioned that I'm pulling back this year because I'm trying to get more savings. And yes, while I also have a lot to watch, I don't really need to be buying new releases. I'm not running out to buy the new Disney ones. I mean, I know they're definitely around. I know that they're being imported from the USA now. But it's not something that I feel needs to be in my collection right at this point in time. If it was to drop and I could import it for relatively cheap, I would probably look at importing it then. But that being said, it's not something that I really care to have in my collection or even want to have in my collection. Something like, as I said, this is an extension of myself. So when I say, oh, I don't regret collecting any of it, I really don't. I regret the timing that I collected it. Obviously, 2020 was a really bad year for a lot of us. A lot of people, the world shut down. We had what happened in the world. And I turned to this. And honestly, I don't regret it. I mean, I regret the timing because obviously when I started collecting 4K, for example, I was collecting at top of the market. And now 4K releases have dropped to like half of the price at JB Hi-Fi. Like, if I was to recollect all that, I bought Star Wars when it first released on 4K. If I had waited and bought it now, that would be half of the price now, and I could probably get in a lot cheaper. But for the time that I bought it, I needed it, I wanted it, and it had to be in my collection. And my frame of mind at the time was that I need it immediately. And that's like a dopamine hit. It's like you do get a dopamine hit each time you spend money. You do get a dopamine hit, and obviously it hits your wallet as well, I guess. But what I mean is, like, I have no problem with spending money on stuff that I am passionate about. And yes, I'm aware that the Jolly Roger is out there, so I know so many people have tried to convince me, hoist the Jolly Roger. Or, hey, you could have just had streaming services for a decade. But in the case of, I know people have told me that apparently 28 Days Later is on some streaming service in Australia. It's just not the same. It's like, yes, I'm aware that it's on a streaming service now. I think one of my followers on TikTok said, hey, no, that's on actually Disney Plus. And after looking further and further into it, I found that it was hidden away from me in there, but it wasn't coming up in search. But if I went and typed Killian, it would essentially pop up. So it is available technically in Disney Plus. I haven't tried to watch it through theirs because I don't have the subscription at the moment, but as I searched through it, I could see that it was actually in the catalogue. I don't like, this is the thing. I don't get special features with Disney. If I want to watch 28 Days Later, I'm going to watch probably director's commentary. Is it Denny Boyle? I think it was Denny Boyle. But I might want to watch the director's commentary version. I might want to watch the special features. I might want to watch something that isn't on Disney Plus. And that's why I do it. Like the other day, I mentioned Dogma in a previous video, one of Kevin Smith's best movies. Since I did that video, I've done a bit of research to see if I was actually being accurate in what I was saying, because this is the thing, I want to be very accurate in my videos, and I also want to tell the right information to my followers. And I found out that I was very accurate with Dogma. What had happened was it was originally a Disney movie through Miramax, which was a subsidiary of Disney and was owned by Disney. And because of the religious backlash against it, Dogma was sold to the Weinstein Company, essentially, to release through New Line Cinemas. Now, Dogma is still technically owned by the Weinstein Company. And I watched a doco about Kevin Smith talking about when he found out about Harvey Weinstein. Like, Harvey Weinstein was talking about, let's make let's make Dogma 2. And this was a week before everything came out against Harvey Weinstein. And Kevin Smith, I believe, said, I'll just donate every royalty check I get from Dogma and give it to Women in Production, or the company, the charity he supports. So Kevin Smith has tried to buy the movie back many times, Dogma. Let's put it this way. The Weinstein Company, it's tied up in the Weinstein Company. And that probably means that looking very likely that Kevin Smith will be able to buy it back. I mean, we have a similar situation in the music industry with Taylor Swift trying to buy her masters. Like, obviously, I don't want to say Scooter, but like Big Machine Records opted not to sell back to Taylor and sell it to Scooter Braun. Scooter Braun sold it on to Shamrock Holdings. And in all of this process, I don't believe Taylor was offered the chance to buy her masters. So that's a very similar situation to what happened with Kevin Smith. He's tried to buy back Dogma many times from the Weinstein Company, but obviously they may not be interested. Obviously, with Harvey being in jail for however long he got, there is a lot of red tape with that. And also, let's put it this way: Dogma is in my view, Kevin Smith's best movie. I have it on Blu-ray, which I showed in a previous video. But if it's not available on streaming, I find people will find a way to watch the art. I think there's a version of it uploaded to YouTube. that was directly uploaded by Kevin Smith himself. I haven't looked into that, but I've heard that that is how Kevin Smith kind of found a way around, and that it was his art. And I don't know if this is any truth to it, but I feel that maybe how he stopped Weinstein Company maybe profiting off the movie. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. You'd have to do your own research on that one. But I've heard there's a copy that was uploaded by Kevin Smith himself somewhere. I prefer the Blu-ray version because it has all the director commentary, it has all the special features, it has what I want in it. And that's what I mean, like, with regrets, I have very few with collecting all this stuff. The only regret I really have is that I collected at the wrong time. And my other regret is that my original collection, because I had probably about 100 Blu-rays and DVDs before I tore them down and put them in binders, I regret that I threw out the cases for those because I had some really unique titles in that. I had Requiem for a Dream. I have it on 4K now, but it had a very unique cover. It had a paperback cover with like a unique artwork. I had the Jaws digibook that I ultimately threw out and kept the discs for. I had I had E.T., I had all of these things like on digibook, and I tore them all down and put them in binders. And that was when I was going digital. That was an era where I was buying big on iTunes and buying big on Google Play Store, and so yeah, I do have regrets in that regard. But in terms of collecting all this and how many I've collected and all that, I have very few regrets. I love what I collect. I'm aware that Jolly Roger is out there, and I would not endorse or encourage hoisting the Jolly Roger unless it's a situation where the movie has no official means to get. It's been completely erased from history, essentially, not on any streaming, not on any official means, not anything. Then it's up to us to preserve the art form, and that is where I'm a preservationist and say, if it needs to be preserved, then I can understand doing it. And as I said in many different videos, something like The Game Changers, a Daniel Radcliffe movie, and Bill Paxton is in there, one of his late acting roles. Something like that has been erased due to a lawsuit because it was about Rockstar Games, and Rockstar had sued BBC, and that movie is essentially erased. So while I'm aware that Jolly Roger is probably available, the Jolly Rogers are available for everything, I would not encourage it unless it's something that you cannot get, and it has been erased and will never be shown again. Like for old television ads, and like for old airings of episodes that have since been erased from back catalogues. Like, I'm a fan of preservationists, being a preservationist as well. And I believe things should be preserved. And if that means you can only get it through unofficial means, if the company doesn't want to make it readily available for any reason, then I believe there is a defense there. Obviously, copyright comes into play. You need to be careful of that stuff. And I'm in no way endorse or encourage it. But if it's a copy that you cannot get anywhere else and it's not available, it's been erased, then I believe to preserve art, you may need to go that route. But it's not something that I encourage. It's not something that I stand by. This is what I love. I stand by this for a reason, because this is supporting the official release. And I love that I can just pull Casablanca off the shelf over here, if it will come out. I don't know how stuck it in it is, because it's a slipcover. That is really stuck in there. Don't worry, guys, we're getting Casablanca out. Trust me, we're getting it out of there. But look how beautiful that cover is. It's very shiny. It's got, what's his name, Humphrey Bogart. I haven't ever opened this one because last time I watched it was on Blu-ray. But yeah, really great movie. Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine. Play it for me, Sam. And like, there's so many legendary lines in here. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Or is it beautiful friendship? But yeah, there are so many legendary quotes in this movie. I own it on 4K now. I haven't actually watched the 4K yet. I'm saving it for a special occasion. But the fact that it's there and ready to go in its highest quality ever gives me peace of mind, essentially. And that's why I do it. That's going to get stuck in there. I don't want to damage the cover. I'm going to do that properly later on. But this is the thing. I love to preserve things in their intended form. And I get this is not for everyone. You can preserve it in its intended form through the Jolly Roger. You can streaming services are making some changes to these things now, and it's not for everyone. And really, if you want to watch something like 13 Reasons Why, for example, that's not presented in its original form anymore because they got a lot of backlash for showing one of the final scenes with Hannah. And that was obviously problematic, that scene, and deemed to be problematic. I watched it and it definitely affected me. But to say, okay, we're just going to erase that scene from history, it never happened, I have a problem with that. It should be preserved in its original form. Just put more, put a disclaimer. I mean, obviously, if it led to people feeling very off after watching it, that may be problematic, and that's probably why it was changed. But the reason I have the DVD version and prefer to watch the DVD version of that when I choose to watch 13 Reasons Why is because, yes, while it does affect me to watch that scene, I preserve the original art as it was originally released and intended. So that's where I stand with a lot of things. And stuff like, I imported a lot back in the day, like stuff like Pirates of Silicon Valley. Since we're talking about Jolly Rogers, this movie is so good on physical media. It is an early biopic about Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and the upbringing of Apple and Microsoft, what would become the tech war and all that. This is a really good movie, Noah Wyle and Anthony Michael Hall. And this isn't available on streaming to the best of my knowledge. So yeah. And what happens when studios back copies that ruin things? Now, obviously, True Lies is getting a release this week or is already out. But I've heard really bad things about the release of this on 4K. I've heard really bad. And I'm still importing. I'm still going to buy it because I want to watch it myself. I do not want to judge a copy until I've seen it with my own eyes and seen what I like about it, what I don't like about it. But the fact that Jeff from Films at Home did a really good video on it and said, like, Cameron has basically smoothed everything out. He's done DNR to death to the 4K transfer. This might still be the definitive way to watch True Lies or on Laserdisc, or if you got D-Theater might be the way to watch it. But or those Italian or French releases that were bootlegs back in the day, HD, that's essentially a version that's erased now. Like True Lies in its original form, Cameron has went with a new version. And so what happens if you don't like the alterations, like with Terminator 2? I have no regrets about collecting any of this because, to me, this is what I love, and this is where I feel most comfortable. This is my escape from reality. And if you liked the video, like, subscribe, and drop a comment, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Peace out.